I'm Peter Brown. I should like to thank all of you who have watched my videos for your support and for joining me on this one. If you enjoy it, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you. Who taught you the alphabet? Do you remember? My mother taught me when I was very young, long before kindergarten. We used to sing it together. And even today, if I have to go through the alphabet, I sing it in my head.
1, 2, 3.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And in between, we would sing nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes are a splendid historical oral tradition, passed down from one generation of children to the next for centuries. Some of the oldest, such as Baa Baa Black Sheep, date back to medieval times. And the roots probably go back even further. Every culture has invented ditties, rhyming ditties for its children. Many, if not all, nursery rhymes have inner meanings. That goes back to a time when to caricature royalty or the powerful was punishable by death. You could get your head chopped off. Nursery rhymes were potent means of slipping in, smuggling in a coded or thinly veiled message in the guise of children's entertainment. And illiterate societies would catch on to the catchy tune, which enabled them to remember the story and, more importantly, more crucially, pass it on to the next generation. Now we come to my first nursery rhyme, Baa Baa Black Sheep. This goes back to the 13th century, to a wool tax imposed by King Edward I. He used the money to pay for his wars. And remember, in those days, the wool industry, the raising of sheep for wool, was a very important industry in England of the day. And under this tax, 1/3 of the cost of a sack of wool went to the king, another to the church, and the third to the farmer. So, in the original version at any rate, there was none for the little boy crying down the lane. Black sheep, too, were considered to bring bad luck, to be bad luck, because you couldn't dye a black fleece, so it meant less money for the farmer. And that maybe is the origin of the expression black sheep amongst a family. Our next nursery rhyme, Oranges and Lemons. We've all sung that at some time or another. The two tallest join hands. They call themselves respectively Orange and Lemon. They join hands and form an arch, and the other children march underneath it in single file, singing. What they're actually singing about, though they don't realize it, is this is the journey of a condemned man to his execution. He passes a slew of famous London churches: St. Clement's, St. Martin's, Old Bailey, Bow, Stepney, and Shoreditch. Next nursery rhyme, Georgie, Porgy. Georgie, Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. This seemingly innocent, child-friendly rhyme has a sexual undertone. Georgie Porgy is a caricature of George Villiers, 1st Duke of Buckingham, born 1592, died 1628 when he was assassinated. George Villiers was a great favourite of King James I. They had a very intimate friendship. And on the strength of that intimate friendship, Villiers became very powerful, politically powerful. And he was created 1st Duke of Buckingham when he was only 31. Villiers and James I were thought to be lovers because of their intimate friendship. And court diaries and letters of that time prove that that was true. And King James even boasted of his love. I love the Earl of Buckingham, because Villiers was an earl before he was created duke. I love the Earl of Buckingham more than I love any of you here assembled. Now, although George Villiers had a hidden friendship with the king, intimate friendship with the king, he was also, being bisexual, a womanizer. And he had sexual relations with numerous women, including daughters and wives of the English nobility. But because he was a favourite of the king, the enraged nobleman couldn't touch him. Hence the line, "When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away." Our next nursery rhyme, "Round and Round the Mulberry Bush," goes back to a prison.
Here we go round the mulberry bush.
Wakefield Prison in Yorkshire.
Here we go round the mulberry bush.
Female inmates used to take their exercise in the prison yard, going round and round a mulberry tree. Our next one, Lucy Locket.
Lucy Locket lost her pocket, Kitty Fisher found it. Not a penny was there in it, but a ribbon round it.
This is about a famous spat between two legendary 18th century prostitutes. A pocket in those days was a purse. Lucy Locket was a barmaid. She worked at the Cock Tavern, a historic tavern on Fleet Street, used by Pepys and mentioned in his diary. Went to the Cock Tavern, where did drink, eat lobster and sing. Kitty Fisher, on the other hand, was a very beautiful courtesan and amassed great wealth. She had servants to look after her. And the implication is that Lucy Locket gained very little as opposed to Kitty Fisher, although they both plied the same trade. Now, the next nursery rhyme has a very sinister undertone.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row.
The Mary is Mary Tudor, Bloody Mary, who, daughter of Henry VIII, who persecuted, executed, tortured and executed so many Protestants. The garden refers to the graveyards filling up with Protestant martyrs. Silver bells are thumbscrews and cockle shells cockle shells are thought to have been instruments of torture which were attached to male genitals. And little maids, a maiden was a forerunner of the guillotine and used in beheading. I believe it's actually to pin the victim down so that he wouldn't run away from the axe. Pop Goes the Weasel. This one, almost incomprehensible. Pop Goes the Weasel. But it's based on Cockney rhyming slang. It's said to go back to the 1700s. It sounds to me more like the 1800s. And it's based on Cockney rhyming slang. Very difficult for a stranger to understand, because very often the second noun is dropped. As for example, a Cockney will say, "Take a butcher's," which means look. Why? Because it's based on rhyming slang, butcher's hook. So, weasel is weasel and stoat, coat. Pop was the slang word to pawn something, you popped it. Now, the first verse of the rhyme mentions the cheapest food available, half a pound of Tutney rife, da-da-da, treacle. Mix it up and make it nice. But the narrator has no money. So what does he do? He pops the weasel. And the second verse refers to a night out at the Eagle Tavern on the City Road, somewhere near Hackney, which was also a music hall. The third verse, a little more obscure. A monkey is a tankard, and knocking off the stick was slang for drinking. Now we come to the next nursery rhyme. Rock-a-bye baby. Rock-a-bye baby on the treetop, when the blue wind blows the cradle will rock, etc. The baby referred to is the infant son of King James II and his second wife, Mary of Modena. The child was rumoured to be a changeling, smuggled into the palace in a warming pan to provide a Roman Catholic heir to the throne. There are other connotations in the rhyme. The wind, that's the Protestant forces blowing in from the Netherlands. The falling cradle, the cradle is the House of Stuart, the fall of the House of Stuart. It's interesting to note that since that time, thereafter, the Home Secretary of the day was always present at a royal birth to ensure that there was no hanky-panky or switching of infants. And this custom continued right up until the 20th century. The last royal baby, where the birth was attended by the Home Secretary, was our very own Queen, Queen Elizabeth II in 1926. And the custom would have continued to the birth of Princess Margaret in 1930, but the Home Secretary of the day got lost and arrived too late at Glamis Castle. Our next nursery rhyme, Three Blind Mice. Three blind mice, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife who cut off their tail with a carving knife. Again, the farmer's wife is again Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor. And the three blind mice, blind because they're blind to the true faith, are three Protestant noblemen who were accused of plotting to kill the Queen. No, they weren't blinded, and they didn't have their tails cut off. Instead, they were burnt at stake, alive. My last nursery rhyme. Ring a ring of roses, pocket full of posies. Now most people know that this refers to the plague. Which plague? It could be the Great Plague of London, 1665, or it could be centuries earlier, the Black Death of medieval times. The rosy was the red, evil-spelling rash which heralded the plague. The victim would stuff his pockets with sweet-scented herbs and flowers to hide the stench. The plague of 1665 killed off 15% of the population in Britain. Hence the line, a tissue, we all fall down. I've enjoyed talking to you today, and it's reminded me of my own childhood. I was born in 1928, closely followed by my two sisters, Sheila in 1929 and Maureen in 1930. Our childhood was in the 1930s, before World War II, in a far different world from the world today. There was no television, there was no internet, there was no rapid air travel by jet. We didn't even have a telephone at home until after the war. Ours was an ordinary middle-class family, lower middle-class family, or if you like, upper working class. My father was a press electrician in Fleet Street, and my mother, the daughter of an Irish bootmaker in the days when ladies wore handmade boots. Money was not plentiful, but that didn't matter to us as children. My parents gave my sisters and I the inestimable gift, the greatest gift that any parent can give to a child, a secure, happy, and loving childhood, which has stood us all in good stead. I think the self-confidence that I've had all my life, and which has rarely deserted me, comes from that happy childhood. My sister died, Sheila died, very recently, after a long battle with cancer. In the weeks before she died, I went to see her, and by then her short-term memory was failing, but she remembered our childhood clearly and lucidly, so we talked of that and of those times. I would like to dedicate this video to her. I think she would have been amused by it. There is a photograph of us, all three. Sheila is the one in the middle, with mop of curly hair. One last thought. Do mothers still sing nursery rhymes to their children, I wonder? Or is that something from a bygone age now? Do tell me from your own experience. Send me a comment. I should like to know, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening and watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.